In today's video, I'm going to talk about a mysterious stitch that everybody's asking about. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts, and today I want to share a stitch with you that is oh so helpful, but kind of confusing for a lot of people. Let's get into that. So let's talk about how and when you would use this stitch that everybody's asking about. So the first thing I need to make sure is that I've got my machine set up. I'm working on the Janome M7 right now, and I have the zigzag needle plate in, and that's because I want to go in the decorative stitches, because the stitch that everybody is asking me about falls into this area, and this is the stitch that everybody's talking about, and everybody wants to know, what is that thing? Well, what it is a space. So it's actually a non-stitch, okay? And when would you want to use this? Well, you want to use this when you want to put spacing between stitches. So you can create a whole stitch design. I'm just going to go into this area here. It automatically takes out whatever stitches I may have had in there. And this allows me to create a string of stitches, all right? So for example, maybe I want to say happy sewing, all right? So you can see it's all together there. Well, I probably don't want it to stitch out like that. I probably want a space because it's two separate words. So I would go up. You can see that sewing is highlighted, and I will now hit that space stitch, and you can see it's inserted it here, all right? So if I want to go happy sewing and I want to put something else in, I'm going to want to put that space in again, right? And then maybe I want to put this little sewing machine in. So I've got happy sewing with the sewing machine in there. That looks great. I might want to print that out, or not print that out, stitch that out a few times. And I'm going to add another space here. And why am I doing that? Well, because when I stitch this out several times, I want to make sure that there's a space before it starts with its happy sewing all over again. All right. So we can just take this back up to the beginning there. You can see happy is highlighted. That means that's what it's going to start with. So I'm not going to make any changes. I'm not going to change the width or length or anything like that, but I do want to stitch this out. So let's talk about that next. Now that we've created this stitch design, let's stitch it out, right? So what I've got is a piece of fabric, and I have some tearaway stabilizer behind it too, because when you're working with decorative stitches, it's always a good idea to have some stabilizer behind it, especially if you're working with denser stitches. These aren't too bad, but if you're working with a satin stitch, always a good idea to have probably at least 2 layers of stabilizer behind it, maybe 3. Okay, you can never have too much stabilizer, right? And what I've done is just drawn a line with a chalk marker here just to keep me lined up as I stitch this along. And I want to stitch it out at least twice. Now you can see on my machine I've got that zigzag needle plate in, as I mentioned earlier. I'm also using the F2 foot here just so you can see it better. And we're just going to start at the beginning, and this is going to start in the center of the stitch and go back and forth. I'm just going to line up the left side of my foot along that line there so that it will keep it relatively straight. So let's see how this stitches out. Okay, it's just finishing up this sewing machine right now, and then it's going to jump with that space before it starts stitching again. All right, so I've got it all stitched out here. You can see it's stitched out twice. All right, you can see where those spaces are in between. If you wanted, you could actually probably cut the thread there. I usually just tend to leave it myself, but you can see that you've got that space before you go into it again. Otherwise, it would have just gone right into the H right here if I hadn't included that space. So it's a really handy non-stitch, if you will, to use when you want to string several different stitches together. It doesn't even have to be words. It might be just little designs like this where you want a little bit of a space before it repeats. Now you might be wanting to learn more about how to create a stitch design. Well, don't worry, I got you covered. Check out this video that has all the information that you need. And for more helpful quilting information, be sure to go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.